They say the desert keeps secrets better than any priest. At night, when the heat finally breaks and the sky turns into a black ocean full of stars, one shape still seems awake: the Sphinx. Old initiates used to whisper that beneath that stone face there are not just tunnels but a vault. Not a vault of gold, a vault of knowledge. According to one forbidden tradition, that vault does not store scrolls. It stores a map, not a map of countries or borders, but a map of reality itself. 7 layers of existence, stacked in the same space like 7 stations on one radio. You do not move through them with your feet, you move through them with your awareness. Mystics called them planes of being. Religious texts hinted at heavens and the pit. Modern physics, in its own cold language, began to admit that matter is mostly empty and everything is fields and probabilities, not solid blocks. But the one who drew this map long before any of that was Thoth, the scribe of the gods, keeper of cosmic cycles, patron of everything that was too dangerous to teach to the crowd. He had another name for these layers. He called them veils. And the first thing he told any student who dared to enter his temples was this: you are not trapped in one world. You are surrounded by many worlds all at once. You are simply trained to see only one of them. In this journey, you are going to hear a living version of that map. We will walk through the 7 fields that Thoth described, from the densest to the most subtle, and at each stage I will give you a practice inspired by the exercises that his disciples had to repeat night after night. This is not trivia, it is technology. Take a breath. Feel the weight of your body right now, the pressure of the chair, the floor. Notice the sound of this voice entering your awareness. On the surface, it looks like just another moment in a normal day. Underneath, 7 layers are already active. What Thoth called dimensional navigation is simply the art of waking up in each of them. The first field he taught was the one nobody questions, the visible one. Thoth called it the kingdom, the realm of matter. It is the world your hands can touch, the phone in your grip, the mattress under your back, the ache in your knee, the steering wheel, the keyboard, the cash, the concrete. For almost everyone, this is what is meant by reality. Thoth did not deny it, but he refused to stop here. He would tell his students, what you call solid is only rhythm slowed down. Today, physicists might say it differently. Atoms are mostly empty space. Particles behave like vibrations in a field. But the implication is the same. This is not as solid as it looks. In the temples of Thoth, the mistake was never to have a body. The mistake was to get lost inside it. When you were born, this first veil fell over you. You learned your name, your gender, your family story. You pointed to this shape and thought, this is me. From that moment on, most people live as if the game began and ends with this one layer. Eat, work, accumulate, survive, defend, try not to die too soon. No true teaching of Thoth ever started from, you are just a soul, and ignored the body. He always began by training his students to see the body accurately. The simplest exercise was the harshest. 3 times a day, no matter where you were, you had to stop for a few seconds. Close your eyes if possible. Take 3 slow breaths. Then, instead of thinking, I am tired, I am hungry, I am stressed, you had to describe what was happening in a different way. There is a body sitting. There is heaviness in the eyes. There is hunger in the stomach. There is tension in the shoulders. You were forbidden to say I am for those things. You had to say there is. It sounds small, but if you repeat it, something cracks. You begin to sense that the body is happening inside your awareness, not the other way around. You still care for it, you still live through it, but you are not completely hypnotized by it. And when that hypnosis starts to break, the second field becomes visible. Thoth used to say, if the body is the mask, feeling is the color behind the eyes. The second field in his map was the emotional one, a subtle ocean made of moods and intensities. Imagine a layer of reality where everything is waves of feeling. Fear, anger, joy, shame, excitement, jealousy, tenderness. Not as private my feelings, but as currents, like winds. 2 people can stand in the same street, under the same sky, at the same time. One lives in a climate of anxiety. The other lives in a climate of quiet trust. The scenery is identical. The emotional field is not. Thoth gave this field a name. Yesod, the foundation. He told his students that Yesod behaves like a spectrum of frequencies. You do not manufacture emotions from zero. They are stations already present in this field. Something happens and your inner dial moves. You tune into rage, you tune into self-pity, you tune into gratitude. Most people have no idea this dial exists. It seems automatic. Someone speaks and you explode. A memory appears and you fall. In Thoth's language, that is slavery. For him, the mark of an initiate was not feeling. It was knowing what to do with what you feel. Out of that came one of the oldest pieces of emotional magic, transmutation. In practical terms, it goes like this. A heavy emotion appears. You feel the clench in your chest, the knot in your throat, the rush in your face. You catch yourself about to react in the same old way. In that exact moment, instead of acting or suppressing, you pause. First, you admit, something strong is here. Second, you ask, where exactly is it in the body? You put your attention there. You breathe into that place as if you were giving it space instead of fighting it. Third, in your inner vision, you picture that emotional charge as a color or a dense cloud. Then you deliberately guide it up, along the line of your spine, toward the center of your chest. In Thoth's temples, the heart was seen as an inner altar. You imagine this charge resting on that altar and being touched by a different kind of fire. Not destructive, but refining. You watch it slowly change. Darker tones becoming lighter. Chaotic agitation becoming steadier flame. You are not lying to yourself about what happened. You are changing how that energy lives inside you. Anger can turn into clean assertion. Fear can turn into intelligent caution. Envy can turn into motivation to grow. Thoth would compare it to alchemy. The lead of uncontrolled reaction becomes the gold of conscious energy. If you treat every strong feeling this way for a season, Yesod stops being a storm that throws you around and becomes a sea you can actually steer a boat through. And again, Thoth would remind you, you move in flesh, you move in feeling, you are deeper than both. From there, he would turn your attention to a third field, the one that convinces you its voice is the only truth you have. In Thoth's map, the third field is the mental sky, the realm of thoughts, not the physical brain, but the layer where ideas, assumptions, judgments, and narratives float. This is where you narrate who you are and what the world is. I always mess things up. People are dangerous. No one ever stays. Money is evil. I'm better than them. I'm worse than everyone. Thoth warned that this field, which he called Hod, is dazzling and treacherous. Why? Because it feels like you. He would tell his disciples, just because a voice speaks in your head does not mean it belongs to you. According to the teachings around him, thoughts are not just private bubbles. They can be patterns that many minds share. When the same idea is believed and repeated by millions over centuries, it becomes a structure in the mental field, a kind of thought form. Beliefs like, you should be ashamed of your body, or you must suffer to deserve love, or this group is superior to that group, do not vanish when one person dies. They linger as habits in the field. If your mind is unguarded, those structures plug into you. You repeat them and feel them as if they were your original insight. This is why Thoth insisted that no one should try to wield spiritual power without first taming the mind's tendency to believe every story it tells. One simple, brutal practice he handed down can change your relationship with thoughts if you are honest with it. All day long, whenever you notice a clear thought or inner sentence, you do one thing. You label it. You do not argue with it. You do not push it away. You do not obey it blindly. You see it and quietly name, this is a fear story. This is a blame story. This is a fantasy of revenge. This is an ego performance. This is a scarcity script. The thought appears. You tag it. You let it go. At first it feels mechanical, but if you stay with it, something deeper happens. You start to sense a gap between the thought and the one who sees the thought. The thought is not you. It is something you are observing. In Thoth's language, this recognition was the first step out of Hod's hypnosis. Once you see that the theater is not the audience, you can sit in the right place. Sitting in the right place is exactly what the fourth field is about. The fourth field in Thoth's map is not another object, it is the subject. He used the image of a hidden sun to describe it, a center of light behind all the layers of cloud. Later traditions would call it the soul, the true self, the essence. In the Tree of Life model, this center is called Tiferet, beauty, harmony, the point where human and divine meet. Thoth taught that, beneath the shifting roles and moods and thoughts, there is a simple fact. I am. Not I am this or I am that, but the naked sense of being. Everything else changes. Your body changes over the years. Your emotions rise and fall. Your beliefs evolve. Your personality even shifts with time. But if you look closely, there is something that has been present through every scene of your life, watching. That silent witness is what Thoth wanted his students to discover, not as a philosophy, but as a lived experience. In the temples, some of the deepest exercises were aimed at turning attention back toward that witness. One of them was disarmingly direct. You sit, you let the body settle, you let the breathing find its own rhythm. Then, quietly, you ask inside, who is the one having this experience right now? The mind will immediately offer answers. I am this name. I am this age. I am this story. I am this list of successes and failures. Thoth's instruction was to treat all of those as masks. The one who was here before all the roles, and will be here after all the roles are gone, that is closer to you. So you ask again, not for a verbal answer, but as a pointer. What am I before I call myself anything? You do this gently, day after day. Sometimes there is nothing but confusion. Sometimes for a brief moment thought drops, and what remains is just presence, a vivid, wordless here-ness. That taste is Tiferet. The more you become familiar with it, the less you panic when the lower fields move. Body pain comes and goes. Emotion storms rise and fall. Thoughts shout and fade. But something in you knows, I am the space in which this happens, not the storm itself. Thoth insisted that without this anchoring, whatever comes next can twist you. With this anchoring, you can begin to relate to much larger forces without losing your center. Those forces live in the fifth field. To explain the fifth field, Thoth spoke in the language of currents. He would draw two pillars. On one side, he placed the principle of expansion, growth, generosity, abundance, opportunities. On the other side, he placed the principle of contraction, endings, loss, discipline, collapse. Later, mystic systems would call these mercy and severity, grace and judgment, or simply good luck and bad luck. Thoth called them by deeper names and made it very clear, neither was your enemy. When something in your life is born, matures and bears fruit, the expansive current is active. When something rotten, false or exhausted is ripped away, the cutting current is at work. In other words, the promotion that arrives out of nowhere can be a face of the expansive current. The breakup that shatters your plans can be a face of the cutting current. Most people cling to one and curse the other. In Thoth's teachings, that is like trying to breathe in but never out. In the fifth field, which we could call the field of forces, these currents act on you whether you know their names or not. What changes when you grow is not that you suddenly control them like a sorcerer in a movie. What changes is that you stop fighting them blindly. In the old days, only students who had proven stable in the heart, in Tiferet, were allowed to work consciously with this level. For them, Thoth would give simple rituals of alignment. One of them can be adapted to your life without theater or superstition, if you approach it with honesty. Choose an evening when you will not be disturbed. On your right, place a light, a candle, a lamp, as a symbol of that which opens paths, brings new life, spreads. On your left, place another light or even a dark object to represent that which ends cycles, cuts illusions, removes what blocks the way. Sit between them. Let your body settle. Feel your breath. Remember for a few moments the quiet presence you tasted in the Tiferet practice. From that place you speak inwardly, something like, I acknowledge the current that gives. I acknowledge the current that takes. I ask not to get my way, but to move with what is real. Let what needs to be born in my life find space. Let what needs to die in my life be allowed to end. Give me the courage not to cling to what is finished, and not to sabotage what is trying to begin. Then you stay quiet. Thoughts will come, images, old hurts, future fantasies. Let them pass without hooking into them. You're not forcing anything. You're offering your will to a larger rhythm. If your mental or emotional state is very unstable right now, if you are deep in paranoia or despair, then it is wiser to stay with the earlier practices first. Thoth would never have put a collapsing mind in front of the strongest currents on purpose. Done with respect, this kind of alignment does not summon monsters. It simply stops you from pushing against what is already moving. Above this, in Thoth's map, there is yet another level, not of individual events, but of the very principles that allow anything to appear at all. In the most guarded teachings, Thoth spoke of two primordial aspects behind all creation, not God sitting on clouds, but archetypal qualities. He described one as the womb, the immense capacity to hold, shape, and gestate possibilities. He described the other as the seed, the pure impulse to move, to act, to spark existence. Later, esoteric systems would call them the divine feminine and divine masculine, the great mother and great father, the yin and the yang. Thoth saw them as two faces of the same mystery. From the interplay of womb and seed, all the lower forces arise, the currents of expansion and contraction, the dance of souls, the storms of thoughts, the tides of emotion, the birth and death of bodies. You could call this sixth field the level of cosmic polarity. Thoth did not give his basic students complex techniques to reach this state. He knew the mind loves to pretend. Instead, he trained them in something much more humble and much harder: letting go. One practice that echoes this is simple to describe and difficult to stay with. You sit. You do nothing special with the breath. You do not recite a formula. You do not visualize anything. You just make one decision for that period of time. I will not hold on to anything that arises. A thought comes. Planning, remembering, judging. You do not push it away. You also do not follow it. You notice and you let it dissolve. A feeling comes. Sadness, boredom, restlessness. You do not dramatize it. You let it be there without adding a story. A sensation in the body, itch, twitch, ache, appears and fades. You sit as the space in which all of that flickers. Sometimes nothing special happens beyond some boredom. Sometimes out of nowhere there is a flash in which the sense of being a separate someone softens or vanishes for a moment. There is only happening. Thoth would say that in those instants the student tasted the sixth field, not as an idea but as the loosening of the usual knot of identity. He would also caution, do not chase these states like a drug. They visit when the foundations are ready, because even these glimpses, as huge as they feel, are not the end of his map. Behind all of it, he pointed to one last principle. Thoth called it the crown, not above your head, but above the whole structure of experience. If the seven fields were drawn as a tree, this would be the invisible root and the highest branch at once. Later systems named it Kether. Thoth hinted at it as the source that never enters the game, and yet the game is made of it. You can imagine all the layers we have talked about as waves, some small, some huge, some fast, some slow. The crown is the ocean itself. Every body you have worn, every emotion you have felt, every thought you have believed, every sense of me you have used, all are temporary shapes the ocean took. The mistake is not to be a wave. The mistake is to forget that you are water. Thoth would look at his students and say, you never left the source. You only lost the habit of noticing. Think about this. You have changed so many times that if you could meet your 10-year-old self, you might barely recognize the way they thought or felt. And yet, there is a continuity. Somewhere inside, you know, that was me. That bare continuity of being is the nearest doorway to what he meant by the crown. When this stops being a cute idea and becomes a slowly deepening recognition, your relationship with the seven veils changes completely. You still care for the body. You still feel. You still think. You still act, love, fail, start again. But something in you knows, I am not only the content of this moment. I am the field that can experience any moment. From that perspective, the whole map of Thoth stops being a set of exotic concepts and becomes a mirror. The first field shows you how you treat your incarnation. The second, how you ride your emotions. The third, how you believe or question your thoughts. The fourth, whether you remember your own depth. The fifth, whether you fight life or collaborate with it. The 6th, whether you can let go into something bigger. The 7th, whether you are willing to recognize yourself in everything. But Thoth never gave this just to impress people. He always paired knowledge with path. In the closed chambers of his temples, it is said that students were not considered initiated for real until they had lived through a cycle of disciplined practice. One version of that cycle used 49 days. 7 weeks, 7 veils, one focus at a time. You can treat it as a myth or you can treat it as a challenge. In the first week, you work with the physical. For 7 days, 3 times a day, you do the simple witnessing exercise. You pause, you breathe, you describe the body in third person. There is walking, there is hunger, there is pain in the knee. You are teaching your awareness to see the body as a sacred instrument, not your entire identity. In the second week, you work with the emotional field. For 7 days, every time a strong feeling rises, you treat it as alchemical material. You notice it, you locate it, you breathe into it, you guide it to the heart, you imagine it being refined. You are training yourself not to drown in every wave. In the third week, you work with the mind. For 7 days, you notice thoughts and name them. Fear story, drama story, inflated ego story, hopelessness story. No violence, just clarity. You are training yourself to sit in the audience, not on the stage of the mind. In the fourth week, you work with the inner sun. For 7 days, you give at least a few minutes daily to the question, who is the one experiencing all this? You drop every label. You rest in the space that remains. You are visiting your own center. In the 5th week, you address the forces. If you feel stable enough, once that week you sit between the symbols of expansion and contraction, 2 candles, 2 objects, and you consciously offer your life to truth over comfort. Let what must begin, begin. Let what must end, end. You are learning to move with the river instead of clinging to every rock. In the 6th week, you practice release. For 7 days, you sit in silence with one agreement. I will not hold on to anything that appears during this time. You let thoughts, feelings, and sensations rise and sink without grabbing them. You are loosening the knot. In the 7th week, your practice is remembrance. Whatever you are doing, driving, typing, talking, eating, you try to catch yourself and silently note, there is awareness here, not as a trick but as a gentle, constant reminder that the crown is not somewhere else. It is the fact that you are aware at all. At the end of 49 days, you will still be human. You will still have habits. You will still have work to do. But you will not be the same. You will have walked in practice through the very map that Thoth hid under symbols and myths. For centuries, most of this stayed locked behind walls, encoded in architecture, buried in legends. It was called forbidden not because it was evil, but because if you hand power to someone still half asleep, they will use it to build better cages, not to become free. You live in a time when those walls are cracking. You do not need a priest to stand between you and reality. Thoth, as a mythic figure, is not looking for worship. He is a symbol of something else, the part of consciousness that remembers, records, and reveals patterns across ages. The real question is not whether he exists out there. The real question is, what do you do when a map like this appears in your hands? You can call it fantasy and close the book. You can collect it as one more cool idea, or you can quietly test it in your own life. Body, emotion, thought, center, forces, surrender, source, 7 veils. If you feel something in you respond to this, a kind of ancient recognition, you do not have to announce it to anyone. Choose a day. Mark it. Today I start my 49-day walk, and then you move, 1 week at a time, 1 field at a time, less autopilot, more presence, less blind reaction, more conscious choice. You are not becoming someone else. You are finally turning around to face what has been watching from behind your eyes since the beginning. In the stories, Thoth sits with his tablet, recording every life, every choice, every moment of awakening. He does not need to punish or reward. The only real punishment is to sleep through your own existence. The only real reward is to wake up inside it. You have seen the map. 7 layers, 7 veils. The decision to walk through them or not does not belong to any god, any priest, any algorithm, any tradition. It belongs to you.